In this video, I'm just going to go through a couple of easy mark questions that could come up on the paper to GCSE tomorrow, but they're just good little 1-2 mark questions that we could just easily make sure we can do. So the first question we need to expand, but it's not just double brackets. There's also the 3x at the front. So I'm going to deal with that bit first. So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 1 is just 3x. And I'm going to put this in a bracket. And then I need to also times everything by x minus 5. So because you're multiplying, it doesn't really matter what order we do this in. So now I'm going to do, I like to call this the moon method because it kind of looks like a moon. And that's just to let me know I need to multiply 4 things together. 6x squared times by x is 6x cubed. 6x squared times by negative 5 is negative 30x squared. 3x squared times x is plus 3x squared. And then x minus 5 times minus 5 is going to be minus 15x. Then always make sure, can you simplify? Well, you have like terms here. So the final answer for this question is going to be 6x cubed minus 27x squared minus 15x. Right, if we go down, these questions again, just some nice little 1-2 mark questions. So we're simplifying here. So when you're simplifying, you're looking for like terms. So for example, I have 8a and I have an a. So 8a, because the plus, it's a positive, plus a is going to be, we've got 9 of them. Then we've got 3b and we're going to subtract 4b. So we just have minus 1b. So you can just put a b by itself. And then here, negative 12 minus 7 is going to be subtract 19. This next one, again, means expand means multiply. So 2 times 3 is going to give us 6. N times n is the same as n squared. And then 3n times 1 is just 3n, but it's going to be a minus because that's a negative 1. Remember, if you times a positive and a negative number, it is going to be negative. But if you times 2 signs together that are the same, it's going to be a positive. Right, these next couple of questions, so what have we got? We've got, again, we're going to be expanding. We need to add them together. So we do the first one and the second one separately. So this is going to become 30 minus 5x. And we need to add 8x. And then 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Just notice how I put them in a bracket just to make sure we keep the signs together. It's super important. So in this case, 30 plus negative 12. Well, a positive and a negative we know is a negative. So 30 minus 12 is going to be 18. And then negative 5x plus 8 is going to give us positive 3x. So we probably like to write it usually with the variables at the front, but they are the same. Right, factorize, we want the bracket back. So we are looking for the highest common factor first of 30 and 12. So in this case, it is 6. Then we go and check the letters out. So the first one has p, the second one has p squared, which means p times p. So they only have 1 p in common. And then they have q to the power of 5 and then q to the power of 7. So that means they only have 5 in common. Open your bracket. Then we know 6 times 5 is going to give us the 30. We don't need to times anything by the p because we already have 1, or the q to the power of 5. Subtract 6 times by 2 gives us 12. We need 1 more p because it's p squared, and then q to the power of 5 times by q to the power of 2 would get us 7. Because remember, with your laws of indices, if I was timesing these two together, for example, it's 7. You add them if the base is the same. Right, the next question we're going to solve. So because 25 isn't divisible by 7 easily, I'm going to expand that bracket instead. So we've got 9 times by 7 is 63. 7 times by negative x. and then we have 25. We're going to do subtract 63 from both sides because we like to keep it balanced. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. So 25 minus 63 is going to get us negative 7x is negative 38. So then we're going to divide negative 38 by negative 7 because we're trying to work out what just x is. Well, first off, we know two negatives make a positive. So in this case, you would get a long decimal. So we're just going to leave it as 38 over 7. Right, and then this last question over here, in this section, we've got a quadratic and it says 2 decimal places. So that's probably telling you need to use the quadratic formula, which is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So in this question, you know that a is 5, b is just 1, and c is negative 3. So if we're going to put this into the formula, what are we going to have? So we're going to have negative 1. So negative 1. And then we're going to have to do plus or minus the square root. Let me put this in a bracket first. Sorry. So minus 1. So plus or minus, and then we're going to have 1 squared. Sorry, forgot my square root on my calculator. Then we're going to have minus 4 times by 5 times by negative 3 all over 2 times by a, which in this case would be 5. So we've got negative 3 on the bottom, 2 times 5. So we've got x to 2 decimal places is 0.68, or, so that's when you put the plus in. But if we try and then we go back and we're going to put a minus in, we are going to have negative 0.88. So that's solving using the quadratic formula if you can't factorize. Right, we're going to move on. So now we're going to do changing the subject. So in this question, we're making x the subject, but notice how we have 2 x's. So what we need to do is we need to try and isolate them onto one side of the equation. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of this cube root. So we do that by cubing both sides. So we're going to have y cubed equals, and then that just, you are left with the fraction. Right, now I want to get rid of the fraction, so I'm going to multiply by the denominator. So y cubed multiply x plus 4. So now that fraction's gone. Now I need to try and isolate the x, but first 1 is inside the bracket, so I need to expand it. So xy cubed plus 4y cubed is 6 plus 5x. So I'm going to bring the 5x over to the left and the 4y cubed to the other side. What will that read? It would read xy cubed minus 5x equals 6 minus 4y cubed. Now we've got the x's on the same side. What do? Well, I only want 1x. So if I factorize, I'm left with y cubed minus 5. And now I only have 1x that I need to make the subject. So the final step is I need to divide both sides by this bracket. And we will be left with x equals 6 minus 4y cubed all over y cubed minus 5. There's another answer you can get for this. It'll just basically be in the signs and a little bit moved around. But if you decided at this point here to put the x's on the other side, the signs might be a little bit different in your answer, but it's still correct. Right, this question, I'm going to put it in red just so we don't get mixed up. This is a ratio question, and this question, it says we have chickens, ducks and pigs. It gives us the ratio of chickens to ducks, which is 7 to 2, and then ducks to pigs, which is 5 to 9. So notice how they both have ducks, but they both have a different number. We need to make that a common number so we can compare all of the animals together. So I'm going to multiply this ratio by 5 and this ratio by 2. Just like we do in fractions when we get the common denominator. We want a common number. So this becomes 35 to 10. And this becomes 10 to 18. So now the duck ratio is the same in both. I can write the ratio of chickens to ducks to pigs as 35 to 10 to 18. Now if we carry on reading the question, it tells us 36 pigs are on the farm. So because we wrote it as one ratio, we know that this 18 here is going to represent the 36 pigs. Okay? So even though it says 18, that means one part of this ratio must be worth 2 animals. So if we wanted to, we could just multiply the whole ratio by 2 and write it as 70 to 20 to 36. The question wants to know how many chickens are on the farm. Well, now we can say there are 70 chickens. So we just write it as a similar ratio. Yeah? Basically the opposite of simplifying. Right, and now we're going to have a look at a third question. So this question wants me to simplify the third, so n is a positive integer, okay? And it gives you a bit of a clue because it's telling you that 27 goes into this. It's only worth 1 mark. So I would say, okay, how many times does 27 go into 675? Well, it's 25 times. What does that mean? Square root of 25 is 5. So that means n has to be 5. Yeah, so that's that one. Right, the next question wants me to show that this fraction can be written in this form where a and b are integers. So we need to rationalize that denominator. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by root 2 plus 1. Why do we change it to plus? Because that will make the denominator not have any roots in at the end. Okay, we're just writing a equivalent fraction, basically. So if we times the top and the bottom, I'm going to put everything in brackets because that just reminds you multiply everything. So on the top, 5 and the root 2. So what will that become? That is going to become 5 root 2. Plus 5 minus root 4, because 2 times 2 is 4, and then minus root 2. That's on the top. On the bottom, what are we going to have? 2 times 2 is root 4. And then root 2 times 1 is going to be plus root 2 minus root 2, and then we're going to have negative 1 at the end. So now I'm going to simplify. So if you look at it, the roots, they cancel each other out. The square root of 4 is 2. So this becomes 2. And then 2 minus 1 is just 1. So the denominator is 1, which makes sense because there's no fraction in the final answer. On the top, this becomes 2. And so we could say, okay, root 5 minus root 2 becomes 4 root 2. And then 5 here minus this 2, because we've changed it, becomes a 3. So that'll be plus 3. So in this form, 3 plus 4 root 2, A is 3 and B is 4. So there are a nice few questions that are easy marks.